For most of modern history, robots have lived in places most people never see. Behind factory fences, inside warehouses, along carefully marked floors, where every object has a known position and every movement has been planned in advance. These machines can move with incredible speed and precision, but place one of them inside an ordinary kitchen, ask it to clean the table, and suddenly everything becomes much more complicated. A glass can break, a towel can fold into a different shape, a chair can be moved, a child can walk into the room without warning. The real world does not behave like a factory. And that is exactly why the next major step in artificial intelligence may not happen inside a computer. It may happen when AI finally gets a body.
We normally experience artificial intelligence through a screen. We type a question, upload an image, or speak into a microphone, and the system responds with words, pictures, or sound. But a robot has to do more than provide an answer. It has to understand where it is. It has to recognize objects, judge distance, plan a movement, and then perform that movement without damaging anything or hurting anyone. If a language model makes a bad prediction, it might produce a strange sentence. If a robot makes a bad prediction while carrying a heavy box, the consequences could be physical. That difference has created an entirely new challenge known as physical AI. Physical AI is the attempt to give machines the ability to perceive, understand, and act within the real world. And although the idea sounds futuristic, the first pieces are already here. Robots have worked in factories for decades. They weld vehicle frames, assemble electronics, paint metal, and move components too heavy for a person to lift safely. Warehouses also use fleets of mobile machines to carry shelves, transport packages, and move inventory. But most of these robots are specialists. They perform a limited set of tasks in an environment designed around them. Change the environment too much, and the machine may need to be reprogrammed. A general-purpose robot would have to work differently. Instead of memorizing one movement, it would need to understand a goal. Instead of being told every exact position, it would need to look around and decide what to do next. And instead of shutting down whenever something unexpected happened, it would need to adjust. That is where newer AI models enter the story.
Researchers are developing systems that connect vision, language, and physical action. The robot sees the world through cameras and sensors. It receives an instruction in ordinary language. Then its AI translates that instruction into a sequence of movements. You might tell it, "Put the groceries on the counter." That short sentence contains more complexity than it seems. The robot has to identify which objects are groceries. It has to find the counter. It has to decide which items can be carried together. It must avoid crushing anything fragile. And it has to change its plan if someone steps into its path. Humans handle these little surprises constantly, usually without thinking about them. For a machine, they represent some of the hardest problems in robotics. In 2025, Google DeepMind introduced Gemini Robotics, a model designed to connect language and visual understanding with physical actions. In demonstrations, robots responded to conversational instructions, manipulated unfamiliar objects, and adjusted when objects were moved during a task. That does not mean a fully capable robot servant is ready to enter every home. Company demonstrations normally take place in controlled conditions, and success in a demonstration is not the same as reliable performance across millions of unpredictable homes. But it shows the direction in which the technology is moving. AI is beginning to cross the boundary between understanding information and changing the physical world. Another important part of this development happens inside simulation. Training a robot entirely in the real world is slow, expensive, and potentially dangerous. A robot learning to walk may fall thousands of times. A machine learning to operate in a warehouse may encounter situations that are difficult to reproduce safely. So researchers create virtual environments where robots can practice. Inside these simulations, a robot can repeat a task again and again. Lighting can change, objects can move, floors can become slippery, boxes can fall from shelves. The machine can experience rare or dangerous situations without damaging a real building or a real person. Platforms such as NVIDIA's Cosmos and Omniverse are being developed to generate synthetic environments and training data for robots and autonomous machines. Think of it as an extremely complicated flight simulator, except the student is an AI, and it may practice millions of variations instead of following one fixed lesson. After training and simulation, the robot still has to prove that its abilities transfer to reality. That gap remains a major problem. A simulated cup behaves perfectly according to its digital model. A real cup may be wet, cracked, and usually heavy or partly hidden behind something else. Reality always contains details the simulation did not predict. So why are so many companies building humanoid robots? It is not necessarily because the human body is the perfect shape for a machine. It is because almost everything around us was designed for that shape. Our doors, stairs, tools, shelves, vehicles, and workstations were built around human height, human hands, and human movement. A wheeled robot may be efficient on a smooth warehouse floor, but it cannot easily climb a staircase. A specialized machine may perform one factory task faster than a human, but it cannot simply pick up another human tool and move to a different station. A humanoid robot could, at least in theory, operate inside the world we have already built. It would not require every building and every tool to be redesigned. The first widespread uses are unlikely to involve robots casually living like people. They are more likely to appear in controlled workplaces. Factories can give them repetitive jobs that change too often for traditional automation. Warehouses can use them to move objects through spaces designed for human workers. Dangerous facilities could send robots into areas involving heat, chemicals, radiation, unstable structures, or heavy machinery. Hospitals and care facilities are another possibility, although that environment creates much higher safety and privacy requirements. A robot might eventually carry supplies, move laundry, or assist with physically demanding tasks. But caring for a person is not simply a mechanical problem. It requires trust, judgment, communication, and an understanding of human vulnerability. A machine that works perfectly 99 times out of 100 might sound impressive, but if the remaining failure happens while helping someone stand up, that error could be unacceptable. Reliability is one of the differences between an exciting prototype and a useful product. Then there is the question almost everyone asks. Will these robots take human jobs? The honest answer is that nobody knows the complete outcome. New machines have changed employment before. Some tasks disappeared, some jobs were transformed, and entirely new types of work were created. Humanoid robots probably will not replace every worker at once. They are expensive, difficult to maintain, and still struggle with situations humans consider ordinary. But if they become cheaper and more reliable, they could begin taking over particular tasks, especially work that is repetitive, physically exhausting, or dangerous. That could protect people from injuries and fill positions where workers are difficult to find. It could also reduce the number of people needed for certain jobs. Both possibilities can be true at the same time. The technology also raises questions beyond employment. A household robot would need cameras and sensors to navigate. Those sensors might observe family routines, possessions, conversations, and private spaces. Who controls that information? Does the robot process everything locally or send data to a remote server? Could it be hacked? Who is responsible if it damages something or injures someone? The owner, the manufacturer, or the company that created its AI? These questions are not side issues. They will help determine whether people actually trust robots enough to live and work beside them. So how close are we to a world where robots work beside us every day? Probably not as close as the most dramatic headlines suggest. Today's humanoid robots can perform impressive demonstrations, but they remain expensive, slow to deploy, and dependent on carefully prepared conditions. The first meaningful change will probably happen gradually. A robot may begin with one repetitive task inside a factory. Then it may learn several tasks in the same building. Eventually, it could move between different workplaces without being programmed from the beginning each time. homes will be much harder. Before people trust a robot around their families, they will need to prove that it can behave safely. Not once during a demonstration, but thousands of times in unpredictable situations. The real breakthrough will not be a robot that looks human. It will be a machine that can enter an unfamiliar place, understand what is happening, learn what people need, and act without creating new problems. Artificial intelligence has spent years learning how to understand our words, images, and questions. Now, researchers are trying to teach it something much harder: how to understand space, movement, gravity, risk, and the physical consequences of every decision. When AI gets a body, it stops being something that only describes the world. It becomes something capable of changing it. That future is not here yet, but for the first time, it no longer feels imaginary.